Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Rebel News Daily live stream. I am Andrew Chapados with Matt Brevner all the way from beautiful British Columbia. How are you, young man?
I'm doing well. It's morning on the West Coast and I'm happy to be here. Good to see you again, man.
Of course, this is the daily live stream where you can interact with us and hear the most recent stories from rebelnews.com as well as around the entire globe and the flat earth plane, as everyone wants me to say. Everybody's always telling me to admit that, you guys. So we take your questions, your concerns by hyper chats on Odyssey, Rumble rants on Rumble, and Super U paid chats. We would take them on YouTube, but we're demonetized on there for, I don't know, misthought, misspeak, something against the thought police, who knows anymore. So we can't be getting paid chats on there, so please go to the alternative websites for that. And we will have to cut away in a few minutes once we stop talking about the, topic non grata, Matt Brevner. That's anything election or COVID or vaccine related. How are you feeling under the censorship wing of the government today?
Oh, can I speak?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that we still have a platform on YouTube. But if you've been following us at all over the last few weeks, I mean, the good stuff's on Rumble and elsewhere. So, yeah, this is just kind of like the waiting room, and I'm treating it as such these days. So.
Well, the first story that we can say, it's under our YouTube safe headline here, is the NBA player Enes Kanter. He's been causing a lot of stirs, and I'm sure this is getting under the skin of the NBA ownership and the commissioner because, Matt, they've gone so hardcore with social justice initiatives over the last year and a half. BLM painted on their court, on their jerseys. Anybody's allowed to have anything on their sneakers that they want. Of course, they ran into some trouble. I think it was last year, maybe before COVID, when one of the general managers, the Houston Rockets general manager, said something about China that he dare not say in the NBA, which makes a lot of money in China ever since the Yao Ming days. That was the team Yao Ming played for that brought basketball from the NBA to China and a large market there. So they said something they didn't like. They had to go on this huge apology tour in China. LeBron James had to suck up to China again. That's where all the memes and the photos and the t-shirts of LeBron with the president of China's haircut came from. So now this player from the Boston Celtics, Kanter, he is calling out China for Tibet and most recently slave labor with Nike. So I think we have some photos of his shoes that we're wearing that we can pull up, please, which are, to me, hilarious. To the NBA, probably very worrisome because the NBA has pulled games off the airwaves mid-game when something's happened they didn't like. So here's his first set of shoes. Hypocrite Nike. To the owner of Nike, Phil Knight, how about I book a plane ticket for us and let's fly to China together. We can try to visit these slave labor camps. You can see with your own eyes. LeBron James and Michael Jordan, you guys are welcome to come too. Modern day slave labor, it says on them. Now, Matt, of course, Michael Jordan was notoriously non-political there's a documentary of him on Netflix where he even says that there was a political candidate that wanted him to endorse him. He wouldn't do it. He always tried to stay out of either side, and he was famous for saying, Republicans buy sneakers too. So what do you think this is going to result in? Do you think we're going to get any movement, any statement from the NBA on this?
Well, yeah, I think they're going to have to shut it down. In classic NBA fashion, they can't let this go on for too long. I will say, though, it's refreshing to see somebody with a platform actually promoting a cause that they care about, that they're passionate about, that isn't popular or isn't easy to do so. Like, it's one thing if everybody in the whole world is flying some sort of flag, but to go against the grain for something that's clearly an injustice, I think that's I gotta support that, man. I think that's great.
I think the NBA here is set up to really show their cards. Obviously, I think they're going to side with China. The probably billions of dollars they get there. And you know what? They might even justify it by saying, it's important to grow the game globally, although I don't think you need any more exposure if you're the NBA across the world due to this thing called the internet. However, they opened the door for all this stuff when they said, any social justice you want, you can put on your shoes. Any cause you want, you can put on your shoes. The NFL did this as well, but they're not as political in the NFL, even though some people like Colin Kaepernick would have you think that. NFL players aren't nearly as political as basketball players. Basketball has always kind of been intertwined in both hip-hop culture as well as politics, going back to the dream team in the 90s when people didn't want to play for the national team, and I forget which player it was, covered up their sponsorship. So there's always been this weird political thing that's intertwined with basketball. Mark Cuban's a political guy. Like I mentioned, the Houston Rockets organization, all this stuff that's gone on. And if they're going to come out and say, this political message we can't have you speaking on, it's going to be looking really bad for them, even worse than it is right now with the Kyrie Irving stuff. And we can't even really describe. He's refusing their mandate. Tons of people protesting, trying to barge into the Barclays Center in New York City, where he plays or is supposed to be playing. So they're not having a good go of it right now, is what I'm trying to say, Matt. You still think that they're going to fold in classic NBA fashion? I mean, there's, I think, like a dozen players who are refusing right now their mandate. Do you think there's any budging on this at all?
Well, for those mandates, we can talk about those later. I have an opinion on that. We can maybe talk about
okay.
that on the other channel. But as for the with China, I mean, Nike's been getting a pass for a while.
Oh yeah.
It's no secret that kids kill each other over sneakers. It's no secret that kids make sneakers. It's no secret that, well, I mean, the list goes on. So, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to pay the piper a little bit and acknowledge wrongdoings. And it's not like Nike can't afford to produce their product domestically and create jobs on American or North American soil, right? So who knows? Yeah, maybe this will be the start of something good.
Even if they produce them in, let's say, like Mexico or Bangladesh, in a place that's at least, Mexico is going to be way better quality working conditions than China. Bangladesh isn't going to be above and beyond better, but I don't believe it's slave labor so many places. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but from my understanding, it's just a lesser quality, but in a free country, so to speak. I think if they just at least stepped it towards Mexico or a South American country where they don't have to pay much for labor costs, I think that would still make them look better, because anything's better than China slave labor at this point, and the cost point might go up just a little bit. But again, you're already in the $200 for most Jordans. The reports and accusations against Nike are damning. A factory in eastern China that manufactures shoes for the U.S. company Nike is equipped with watchtowers, barbed wire fencing, and police guard boxes. It noted that people have been kept against their will in inhumane conditions. This facility, a Nike supplier for more than 3 decades, produces approximately 8 million pairs of shoes each year. Where is this from? What's this website? The Gatestone Institute International Policy. Okay, well, I tend to, that's probably true, but I want to know what Gordon G. Chang stands to gain from printing this, because there's always two sides to every story. But if It's just if it's just a report, then obviously we can take it, but it's always important to look at the source. I don't doubt it, though. I mean, the Apple factories, Matt Brevner, with the suicide nets are well documented. I think the closest thing we come to that here would be Amazon. I mean, there's lots of complaints in the United States about the working conditions there. Of you mess one thing up and you're on the chopping block to be fired if you do anything again. No bathroom breaks. It's kill or be killed, I think, on the Amazon floor. Metaphorically speaking, of course, or maybe literally, I don't know. But something is to be said about how long Nike's gotten away with this stuff. And I think, like you said, it's time to pay the piper a little bit. They've gotten away with it. They've got, Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. They always get the top of athletes representing them. And somebody's got to say something. LeBron James, come on. LeBron James is basically paid by China at this point, half of his wealth. And South Park did a great parody of all of this stuff about China and LeBron James and all these people, Disney particularly. And it's not hard. I was criticizing that article just because I'm trying to be critical of everything, but it's not hard to throw a stone and hit something about Chinese corruption. Did we have an article about Michael Jordan you mentioned, producer? What's he got to say? Is he crying? Michael Jordan endorses NBA's handling of COVID vaccine. I'm a firm believer in science. Well, isn't that nice, Michael Jordan? He's firmly siding with the NBA in a preseason marked by controversy and players' hesitance or outright refusal to get vaccinated. Of course, Kyrie Irving alleges that they were told that they won't have to get vaccinated if they don't want to. Charlotte Hornets owner and Bulls legend addressed the league's COVID-19 protocols during an interview with Craig Melvin on NBC. When discussing NBA's contenders this year, he stressed the importance of staying healthy. The importance of staying healthy. See, now I can't even give my opinion on this on YouTube. I can't give my opinion on health. I can't give my opinion on the vaccines. Let's get back to that. I'm going to write a big arrow pointing down to the non-YouTube topics, and let's get to Alec Baldwin. The pressing story of the day, Matt Brevner, is Alec Baldwin. I'm told we have an update there, an update in the shooting. Now, from where we left off, where we last left off was somebody handed Alec Baldwin a gun that was loaded. He was talking to the producer and the director of photography. He said, "Is this how you want me to do it? Pull the trigger," which you obviously shouldn't do. Anyone who's been on any gun safety course or read anything about gun safety knows that you don't point the gun at something you don't intend to shoot. You definitely don't just pull the trigger for no reason. So that's where we left off as a, possible manslaughter. Probably won't get charged with anything because they're going to put it on the person who's supposed to check the guns, blah, blah, blah. What is the update we have now? Russ film set shooting. Prosecutor says criminal charges possible. Santa Fe County District Attorneys tell New York Times weapon Alec Baldwin fired was legit antique gun. That's interesting. They've not been ruled out in the fatal accidental shooting by Alec Baldwin on the Russ film set, the local district attorney handling the case has said in an interview. Speaking with New York Times, too many people speaking with New York Times. Speak to, Blaze TV instead if you're in the U.S. Santa Fe County District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies also said it was incorrect to refer to the firearm used to the incident as a prop gun, as media reports have. It was a legit gun. She told the paper it was an antique era-appropriate gun, which I believe was taking place in the 1800s, was the time period of this movie. An enormous amount of bullets had been found on set, and an investigation was needed into the nature of that ammunition. Matt Brevner, what do you think happened? Have you been reading into this? Should we care is another question.
Oh man, I've been reading too many Reddit threads and tinfoil hat conspiracies that I can't speak about on this. But I mean, just at on high level, I don't know if you've ever been on a movie set or anything like that, but usually there's protocol for handling this sort of stuff, right? You have the safety expert. Usually the actors have to get, if they're going to handle any live firearms, I know in Canada, you have to get your license. You have to have your PAL. So, I mean, it just seems like gross negligence that even if, I would imagine if he was handed the firearm, he would still check it to see if there were blanks or live ammunition in it. So the whole thing is just kind of bizarre. something's missing. We obviously don't know everything about what's going on here, and it's unfortunate that that woman had to lose her life over it. It's just gross negligence at the very least.
That's what I was going to say, criminal negligence or manslaughter, because you're still responsible for pulling the trigger. It's like if somebody puts you in the driver's seat of a car, you can't say, well, I didn't know there was gas in the car when I hit down on the accelerator and hit this person. Assistant director on Rust was fired from previous movie after a gun incident. This is from CNN Entertainment, probably the only genre they might be reliable in. Definitely not health anymore. I might have said health a year ago or something, but can't trust them on that either. The AD on the set of the movie Rust, who was handed a prop gun to Alec Baldwin before the, you want to enlarge it? Not just for me, but for the audience. Shooting last week, was previously fired from a film production after a gun incident injured a crew member, the production company told CNN. So this whole production crew, Matt Brevner, is full of people just blowing the whistle left, right, and center. They're talking to CNN, they're talking to lawyers, they're talking to New York Times. So everybody's just giving all this different information. It's probably a welcome distraction for some politicians and things like the border and inflation and gas prices in the U.S. But it's, I think, particularly interesting to people because Alec Baldwin is such a polarizing figure. He hates Trump.
Right.
He did impressions of him on Saturday Night Live. He fights paparazzi. He threatens cameramen. He leaves drunken messages to his small young daughter, calling her a pig. All this amazing stuff. And at the same time, he's a great actor. So it's a really confusing thing to be involved with and a very compelling story. I mean, I'd imagine if there was any big polarizing figure, especially politically, it'd be going the other way. If it was a big Republican, if James Woods or, you know, who else is big out there? Ben Shapiro shot somebody. Ben Shapiro shoots man on set of new movie would be a hell of a headline.
Well, this is like the equivalent of Candace Owens having an abortion.
That's true. Yeah, it would be it'd be front page news for every left wing source. So
yeah, I mean, just as far as like, you know, he's obviously been rallying against guns for a very, very long time. So for this to happen to him, I don't know if this helps his argument or hurts it, but it's, you know, he definitely has more body than most legal gun owners in the United States at this point. So,
well, it's very interesting that you would be okay with portraying gun violence in a movie, but being against it in real life. So you're okay with
Hollywood definitely.
Because why
Hollywood gets a pass?
Be
you know,
like,
so,
no, I don't want to portray this.
Yeah, for sure. Hollywood gets a pass. You know, they can sell sex and violence to our youth as much as they want to, but then, you know, virtue signal in real life, in CNN real life, for how us, you know, normies and peasants should behave.
Do we know if that was the real person? Can we put that back up? This was who's saying this? The Libs of TikTok is saying that's a big account, but they're fact checking. I don't know. Do we know the name? Do you want to look at the comments and then Google the name to see if that's the actual person? I've lost audio feed. I think I need a new battery here or something. But okay. So do we know for sure that's the person? Yes, this is real. She also deleted her TikTok account. I wasn't sure if I was ready. The 24-year-old armor who had doubts before being put in charge of gun. Oh my goodness. So this is just negligence all across the board if this is real. What's her name? Hannah Gutierrez Reed. 24-year-old head armor. First of all, that's way too young to be in charge of a ton of weapons. I don't care if you've been... Like, how long could she have been in charge of weapons on a set before? I don't care if it's a man or a woman. In many people's eyes, Alec Baldwin's in his late 60s, I think. You really want a kid teaching you about stuff? Really, I know that's not legally a kid, but still, that's a lot of responsibility to put on somebody that young, even if they're experienced with guns. I was in the Army, 24-year-old guy in the Army, I wouldn't want in charge of the entire thing. I'm sorry to tell you. That's probably not enough life experience to be responsible for other people's lives. So that's interesting. If that's the person, that's probably not the person you want. Even regardless of age, Matt, the TikTok generation is not somebody you want responsible for guns, I don't think.
Yeah, if I'm on a movie set, it's just sad. I mean, this stuff is just like stranger than fiction, you know? Like, I mean, if I'm on a movie set, I want my stunt guy to be like 55. He better drive an old Silverado. You know, he should have a jean jacket with a Sherpa on the inside. He should smoke a pack and a half a day, and he should be like, cold gun. And I'm like, yes, sir. Thank you very much. You know that.
Never point the gun at somebody. Even with we had this discussion at the office with gun safety. Even blanks. If you've never even fired a blank round, they emit a large and quick amount of gas. And if you put a blank round and fire it in front of somebody, I don't know, at least this close, you could kill them. That's what I thought happened at first. They had a blank round, they fired it too close, they killed one person, they injured another. Turned out it was a real bullet, probably went through the first person and hit the second person by the sounds of it. Probably an old revolver or something, given the time period. But I don't know, I'm just speculating. I think we got to prepare to leave YouTube at this point for the next topics. We've got Australia's new COVID laws. We've got union workers in Vancouver, which I imagined you worked on this video. And we've got the FDA endorsing Pfizer for children. We've got all sorts of lovely stuff. So go to rebelnews.com/live streams. Go over to Rumble, SuperU, Odyssey. Those are the alternate platforms we are on right now where it's free. Of course, Rumble has this new deal where they're putting Dave Rubin's locals into that. Maybe we could talk about that a bit. I don't know how much we actually know about that. Rumble, locals, Dave Rubin, Rubin Report.